And I'm just coming with the idea of eventually maybe trying to come home.
Okay, you are good to go whenever you would like.
Apply. I was
Good.
You put in.
All right, if everyone's ready, we'll go ahead and get started here.
This
I'll
round.
start off
Yeah,
with roll
when it opened
call.
about 3 weeks ago.
I'll start from me, we can go clockwise. Patrick Fitzgerald, member present.
Jerry Williams, present.
Logan Dunning, member present.
Christine Brinker, member present.
Elizabeth Shaw, member present.
Rick Emil Heinz, member present.
Nathaniel Sierra, liaison present.
Melanie Glenn, staff liaison present.
I see we have Lana online. And then, perfect.
Hi, Lana, present.
Perfect. And we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Go ahead and welcome our guests. If anyone wants to introduce themselves, go ahead. We'll start with you.
Bruce Raymond, it's my second time here. Just want to see what's going on.
Awesome.
I'm Julie Moroftek. I'm with Go Electric Colorado. So
Okay, perfect. And Hillary as well?
Bob Hiller's on the
Yes, hi. I'm here online.
Perfect. All right, sounds good. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on to approval of last month's meeting minutes. Start off, are there any edits, comments, any changes anyone wants to be made? Not, I'll go ahead and open up for someone to motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion and
second.
seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Perfect. Go ahead and approve those meeting minutes. And yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and get into the meat of the meeting here with our standing community project updates.
Public forum.
Oh, public forum first,
Yes.
got it. Yeah, anyone from the community? Spiel.
So this is a place where if the public would like to address the commission on any topics, you can, and you have 2 minutes to talk on any topic of your choosing. Bruce?
I'm really just here to listen.
You got it.
So, hope to become more involved.
Fantastic. Now moving on to community projects updates. Do we have anything from the commission?
Yeah, I can speak here. Do you want to show Tracy as present real quick?
Oh,
Hi, Tracy. From a communications perspective, our subcommittee met last night to discuss content recommendations to the city's communications team for the summer 2025 English magazine. Thanks, Mel, for blocking our content there.
Yes, you got it.
We pared down our recommended topics to 4 bullets, and I'm sorry they're not in front of you. You gotta trust me that I'm reading off my laptop. In no particular order, the first one, since this goes out in May. No?
Yeah, the spring one. Quick question, are you listing them in order of importance, just for my notes, or just?
I'll send you, I can. Yes, yes, Mel, I am.
Okay, cool.
And the commission can dictate priority.
Follow this through.
But the first one was, I thought we could highlight the Zero Fare for Better Air campaign that is usually run by the city of Denver. And the thought process was that it's the hot months. We have so many ozone days. We're working to get more vehicles off the road. And so if we could maybe plug the Zero Fare for Better Air. I take advantage of this every year. It's fantastic to grocery distill it. Public transportation is free for this 3-month block, and it's incentivizing cars to get off the road and use public transportation. It's a partnership with RTD, so I'm sure it's a win-win for both. I'm sure it incentivizes ridership on public transportation. This last year it was July 1 through August 31. So that 3-month time frame, or is that 2 months?
That's 2 months.
No. 2 months. And I used it numerous times. I took the Zero line from Inglewood to downtown for baseball games. I took the light rail to the airport, and it is indeed no fare, which is fantastic. So wanted to maybe promote that, get some cars off the road. Sub-bullet to zero fare for better air, we were just sort of ideating around, would it be worth it to plug, if the grant cycle timing is appropriate, the state's e-bike rebate program. Second sub-bullet, take this as an opportunity to promote all that Inglewood's doing around multimodal transportation. We thought of the example, the Burt Inglewood trolley and the efforts around expanding the route there. If we could provide, a map or a QR code to the expanded routes, that'd be fantastic. I know people are talking more and more about the Burt. We thought it'd be a great opportunity for public education, provide some facts if, space provides around emission stats during summer months, number of ozone days. I'm an asthmatic, there are some days that it's just hard to go outside. So I think just that public education piece could be powerful. So that's the first bullet, zero fare for better air, really emphasizing multimodal transportation. Thoughts?
Can I throw one wrench in the zero fare for better
Throw a
air?
wrench in it, that's fine.
I'm pretty sure that's not happening in 2025. It was a legislation that I know was for 2023 and 2024. I just Googled it and I think it's not happening. But
So it's sunset.
a caveat for that is they do still have zero fare for like youth, and they enacted a bunch of different other programs. They're still really awesome for people to know about. So would that be okay if it's just like a tweak of?
Yeah, I'm happy to do more homework on that. I was not aware that it sunset last year. So Mel, if you want, I can do a little digging and see what we want to suggest with regard to this topic. But if you already have that info in your brain, go for it. Well, bummer, off to a good start. The second bullet, in terms of priority, we thought, when you think summer months, you think summer watering, and summer watering 101. An incredible amount of water is used on residential turf and grass. So, we thought some public education around when it's best to water your lawns, if that's the route that you're going to go, right? When is it best to water your native plants? What time during the day is best to do so? Providing some statistics, it's been a while since I've dug into these, but it's a crazy amount that is lost to evaporation. I can't tell you how many times I've walked around Duncan Park and houses are watering their lush lawns at noon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and they're the mist sprinkler systems, and you can literally see it just going into the air. Very frustrating. So I think some public education around this piece could be really helpful. Again, maybe rattle off some facts or link to an existing resource, no need to recreate the wheel. Maybe promoting some low water alternatives. Any alternative to Kentucky bluegrass, I think, is low-hanging fruit. And that's priority number 2, summer watering 101, and some public education around that topic. Thoughts? Yes?
Can I say something? Are you familiar with Resource Central?
I am, yes.
Okay, because they're a great resource.
That sale's on. I'm not sure if it'll even still be going on.
We partner with them for their Garden in a Box program and their turf
Turf
replacement
removal,
program. Yep.
And I've used both.
Oh, good.
That's who we partner with turf replacement?
Uh-huh.
Is that Garden in a Box too? Did you just say that?
Yeah, but we actually sold out yet again in like a day. So,
Wow.
and we doubled it this year, which is really great to
Wow.
Great.
hear. Sorry for everyone who didn't get
Love that.
it.
I think, alternate grass types would be big. I know we got rid of all of our Kentucky bluegrass the last couple of years, and our water bill's cut in half. I've got kids, they love a lawn, so what can we do for those families who want to maintain their lawn, but offer alternatives instead of just maybe a heavy hand? So that was topic 2. Yeah, what's up?
You could also point out a couple of the negatives around it. Watering your lawn in the middle of the day like that will tend to burn it. So it's kind of counterproductive. You're really ruining yourself. You don't know it. But I feel like I see it too. My neighbor drives me crazy.
Oh, and watering too regularly doesn't allow the root system to actually penetrate and
That's right.
survive on its own. It stays at the top.
Does it thicken the thatch?
Yeah, I think just general public, like watering in the middle of the night, can cause mold issues, right? There's just a lot that's very, I think, simple to communicate, even if it's 3 or 4 bullets or linking to resource controllers. I think that's a great idea too. Great, thanks for the feedback on that. 3, it's community projects to engage the general public. And the thought around this was, we've been frequenting Duncan Park the last couple of days because it's been beautiful. And it's probably the most people I've seen out at our local park since we've been here for 6 years. And I think coming out of this winter, people are itching to get outside. They're itching to get their hands dirty. There's just a general buzz around, how can I get involved at the local level? And for example, I got my hands dirty with Tracy and her project out at Bard Park. She mentioned she's gonna work on logistics around a community engagement day to further that project. So how can we promote ongoing projects in the community around our parks, just to get folks out, build community? And I think there's a couple opportunities to do so. Tracy, do you want to speak to your potential event in May? You mentioned there's planning. There you go.
Yeah, thank you for that plug. I met with Parks today. We're looking at the 3rd or 4th weekend in May to do the event. And it will be like an all-day affair because, as I told them, I want the community to be engaged with this. It's their park. And so there'll be a lot more coming, but that's the time frame, is either the 3rd or 4th weekend in May.
Love it. And she said it's going to be centered around planting, conservation, or Compost Colorado will be there, who I know Tracy's involved with. There'll be some live music. We could even get some food or drinks there. So exciting event there. Just one example of what I think we should be highlighting. I know, Dana at Depot has had issues with maintenance. So how can we have maintenance days and get the community involved around native gardens and public education in that way? That's bullet 3. The last one, and this is some feedback from Mel, but what are our current, grant cycles around sustainability? Do they run through the summer months? Can we plug neighborhood improvement? Can we plug turf replacement? I believe the latter was in the most recent edition, so maybe we don't need to double down there. But just some general awareness, as you've said in the past, Mel, it's tough to just give the money away for some of these grants that we have, and they're incredible programs. So how do we just continue to raise awareness around those? So that was my 4th bullet, is just summer grant cycles. Feedback, anything I've obviously missed on summer communications around sustainability?
I was just gonna mention, for Tracy, when you're doing that park program, the 4th weekend falls on Memorial Day weekend. Is that ideal, or isn't it preferable to do it the 3rd weekend?
Well, I appreciate that feedback because I asked Parks Department about that too, and he said both were wide open. And I brought that up that Memorial Day can be a hit or miss in terms of like, yay, people have a 3-day weekend, or it could be like everybody's out of town. So if you have feedback on that, that would be great. I'm open for suggestions.
I was just gonna say, because it's the first weekend after the end of school. So usually people start, I know a lot of my son's friends take off immediately after that. Out of town.
A lot of the elementary schools have a half day on that Tuesday as the last day, which also doesn't count. So I go, I'm saying what you're saying. There's that half day, but a lot of people are not going. So to your point, they're leaving town, and that's that.
It's a wash.
So yeah, I think the 3rd weekend probably makes a little bit more sense.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. I plan to make a decision in the coming week for sure, so I will let you all know.
Yeah, let me know when I can broadcast it. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
As far as maybe another potential item, I'm thinking of this good, like going into the summer months, just like any sort of directory for cooling and relief centers, just brilliant availability of get people where they need to go, if they need to get out of the heat, stuff that doesn't require a purchase, that kind of thing.
Is there a resource, there has to be a resource for where we can point folks, local?
Not that I know off the top of my head, but there must be. Or
Sure
if not, I
exists.
could work on.
We do have release centers in
Yeah.
Inglewood. Who's the point of contact for that? Just showing it. Tim? I think Tim Dodd runs the list.
We can try to-
Tim, Tim has one, but yeah, should be a great resource though.
That's great. Thank you both.
Bring that back up for the resiliency discussion, because we talked about a comprehensive map like that as one of the solutions.
Mel, do you have sufficient notes, or what do you need from me to make these recommendations to our communications team?
I think if you want to just send me the notes you have so I can make sure I have everything that you'd like in there, but I think I'm pretty good.
I'll clean it up and send it over tonight.
Cool.
Any other discussion? I've taken too much time from the commission on summer communications.
Thank you.
Got it. Thanks, subcommittee.
All right, any other community projects? Tracy sees her hand.
Yeah, just one that's coming up really quickly is on March 22nd. It's a Saturday. Gonna finally install the sustainability little library, that's a mouthful, at the Inglewood Rec Center. But we are tabling with Compost Colorado, kind of making an event, just educating people about all things sustainability and asking people to bring a book or seeds to put into the library. So it's like an opening up the little library at the Inglewood Rec Center. So just wanted to throw that out there and invite you all to that.
Tracy, do you want to email me about that and I can work with our communications team to get that out?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Will do. Thank you.
Sounds fun. All right, anything else? Standing community projects? We'll move on to the next topic, which is our standing Dr. Cog updates. Hopefully good news. Hopefully no news.
Yeah, there's tentative good news. It seems like the funding will be flowing from the federal government. There was some question about whether that will happen. I think they don't know if it's the full amount or if it'll continue for the whole project cycle, but at least for the first part, they've gotten word that they will get the funding. I think that's about it. I know.
That's positive.
They're still hiring positions, and if you know people that might be interested in those, check the website and making offers on a few, so all signals go.
Great. Sounds good. All right, move on to the next one, which is moving to Go Electric presentation and Q&A.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, what do I do?
Right in there.
Knock on wood.
Okay, it's booting up, that's good. And while that's booting up, we can tee up. Christine, do you wanna,
Sorry,
oh, sorry.
sidebar.
Just while she was teeing up, I know Christine, you really wanna Go Electric to come. Do you wanna say a little bit about like your interest in having them come?
Yeah. Heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, induction stoves, and electric vehicles, solar, and probably energy efficiency in there are all really good resources for reducing climate emissions and other indoor and outdoor air pollutants. Heat pumps in particular are having a moment and just plummeted in price, as well as familiarity from contractors, even though there's still a lot of work to do. And there's a number of rebates, incentives, and other financial perks available at the moment.
No internet
that bring down the cost even further. And on the other hand, I hear a whole heck of a lot of misinformation about heat pumps and how well they can work in our cold winters, and their cost and their reliability and what you do in an outage and so forth. And so countering that misinformation and just bringing up everyone's collective level of education on that seemed like a good time to do that. And I've been really impressed with Go Electric Colorado. I'm sure Julia will explain more, but my understanding is they're all volunteer and they're fellow residents who have gone through electrification of their own households and are willing to lend advice because it is a learning curve. And once you go through it yourself, it makes a lot of sense. And you're pretty glad you did it, but when you're first looking at all the options, there's a lot to understand. So just having a friendly ear or someone to give advice for what they learned along the way is priceless.
You didn't monologue long enough.
All right. I electrified my own house. It is awesome. I love it. I have a heat pump, keeps us cozy in the winter down to the negative teens. And we have air conditioning in the summer. Before, we never had air conditioning in our house. So if temperature's getting hotter in the summer, that is definitely appreciated. It's quiet, it's reliable, it's a heck of a lot quieter than our neighbor's air conditioner. So we don't even hear it, it's just tucked behind our house. It looks just like an air conditioner. I think it's a tad bigger, but you're not really comparing them side to side. But for all intents and purposes, it looks just like an air conditioner. The only difference is that it works both directions. So it pulls heat out of our house in the summer and it pulls heat into our house in the winter. We were a little too ahead of the curve, so we didn't get all these awesome, amazing rebates, and I'm just so jealous of everyone that can do that now. But I think their adoption is following this similar trajectory as EVs, where you need some early adopters and some people that are kind of willing to test out the equipment and spread the word, and then it gets to be more mainstream. So I think that's where we are there. All right, Julia.
You're like, that's
We're
that's
almost
Good
to give the
question.
presentation.
Yes.
Have you realized savings on your bills from electrification?
Yes, it is hard to calculate the exact amount because we also got solar. And
Yeah.
so our bill, our total energy bill is $5 a month. I think it went up to $7 a month. And so it's hard to disentangle which amount is from the solar versus the heat pump. But I guess I could say that with just a normal Inglewood-sized house, small 2-bedroom house, and the south side covered with solar panels, that's enough to charge our heat pump and our heat pump water heater and our EV, and plenty left over for, washing and drying and cooking and all
How
that.
difficult was it dealing with Excel about taking back their whole billing cycle relative to gas and everything? I've heard there's problems with actually dealing with Excel.
This was a number of years ago, and you had to fill out some PDF form, so it wasn't user friendly at the time. I kind of hope that they've gotten better. We didn't remove the gas infrastructure, though. I think the meter's gone, but they essentially just capped the gas line. I think if someone wanted to remove all of the gas piping from their property, that would probably be what, $10,000 or $20,000, but that doesn't seem necessary from my perspective. And Excel, for their part, has been significantly ramping up their efforts to promote and encourage and help fund heat pumps and heat pump water heaters. So I would hope that their user friendliness is going along with that. And starting, I want to say January 1st of this year that we're in, they doubled or tripled their incentive, something really impressive like that, because they have specific goals they need to meet
Julie Marovcha.
as part of their clean heat plan. And so their incentives are quite awesome.
Yeah.
Just you use a battery backup also, or just the solar directly?
I don't, just the solar. And that means that in the case of a power outage, we
This
would
one
not
here?
have power.
The open folder.
Though I don't know if this is part of Julia's presentation, but I think it's not well known that people with gas furnaces and gas water heaters, those also don't work in a power outage because they have pumps and blowers and motors and electronics that run them.
What do I do?
I'm glad you guys all know that, but that is still a common point of confusion, and it's almost levied kind of like a gotcha moment, like, oh, what are you gonna do in a power outage? And we'll freeze our little butts off, as will everyone else.
There's also work being done to incorporate EV batteries as residential backups.
That's what
That
you're talking
is
about?
super cool.
It's a big battery.
Yeah, yeah.
Sitting there.
I mean, I can't get it.
That went a little different route in my house where
Okay.
have the solar, also have the batteries. The other thing the batteries do is they carry the house completely through the higher price time. So I
Nice.
never buy any electricity during that time. The
Uh-huh.
house runs on the batteries at that time automatically every day.
Wow.
And then they recharge during the low time or mostly from the solar panels.
Okay.
And then the other thing I did differently is I still have a gas furnace because it's a 98% efficient, but it only comes on in the extreme temperatures because it is still, why the others work, it's still more efficient than a heat pump and it's so clean. So it will run possibly part of 2 months of the year, maybe, and that rest time it doesn't turn on. And then the third thing I do differently is I actually have the new generation swamp cooler or evaporative cooler, which they are computer controlled. They're amazingly good. They will cool your house down 35 degrees lower than whatever it is outside. And it costs about $10 a month to run, or on solar, nothing. So I have a heat pump only because I've had had evaporative cooler for many, many years. And when we have forest fires, which may be coming around again, you got to turn it off because it sucks in all the smoke. And that's why I will love having the heat pump in the summer to switch on at that time when I can turn that off. But the rest of the time, that's what I'll run. So virtually, so what I have is actually like 120% 9 months of the year done by solar. And in the winter, it doesn't cover about 4 to 5% because of the shorter days.
That's cool.
So,
This is gonna work.
but on it, without even, I really have to say people need to be committed because it's expensive. And if people look at it simply as, when will I save money? I hate to tell them it's going to be a while down the road because you got to pay all this stuff off. I mean, pay it off in the sense of recouping your investment.
Yeah.
So you have to, if you go the full way, there really has to be a commitment to it.
Is the evaporative cooler, is that a whole house system or is that just?
That's a whole house system.
Why can't I not
And to get
see-
the rebates from Excel, it has to be a whole house system.
When you mentioned it takes a while to pay off, that reminded me that there's a bill going through the legislature now
Okay,
where
so
you
start
can
again.
put it onto your energy bill and pay it off month by month on your energy bill. And the idea is that your payment for your big old system is less than the savings you've already accumulated, so it could come out to be free-ish or cheap.
Right.
And so I don't know the status of that bill, but that could maybe help with that upfront cost probably,
Yeah, that
because
would.
it is sticker shock. You will fall over.
Like, what's the range?
The range I want to say would be 8,000 to 24,000, but maybe you could be outside of that as well. I think
Yay.
Oh my God.
12
That's your
to,
You're saying for full electrification?
yeah, heat pump.
Yeah.
Heat pump.
Christina, if
But
Congress
with
ever needed a
incentives.
filibusterer.
She did great. I'd be interested to hear what's left.
Well, I'm not gonna talk about the technologies as much as I'm gonna talk about our organization.
One second, can folks online see the presentation?
No.
Okay.
Not right now,
Okay,
but
hold on.
previously we could see those slides.
You might want to do Julia.
Do you see it now?
Yes.
So you wanna mute your computer?
It is muted.
Are you on Teams?
No. Might be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, so you're not muted on Teams, so you want to mute your Teams.
Okay. Where's my Teams? There? Okay.
Mute your person.
I would just click out of the Teams. Okay.
Since you're already
Out of
share.
there.
Yeah.
And let's go into
Except you are
this.
there.
Okay, I think, can they see it now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so thank you for having me. I'm gonna tell you about Go Electric Colorado. So our mission is to protect people and the planet by transitioning our homes and commutes to cleaner, more economical electric appliances and vehicles. So one of the big things that we do is we have a team of absolute geek home electrification coaches, and we provide free home electrification consultations. So if any of you want to take one, you can go to goelectriccolorado.org and just sign up. And there's a calendar app. You can sign up for a time. So our coaches start out by talking on the phone for an hour or two with the person. Often that resolves the issue, but we are willing to go to their homes. And we also provide ongoing guidance. So it's not just, we talk to them and leave them. Some people we, talk to for a year or something. I mean, not constantly, but they will text or email with additional questions as they go through the home electrification process. We also, we work with municipalities. I'll talk about that later, but we want to get more consultations because this is how we're helping home electrification. And I'll tell you more about specifics. So there's a lot of reasons why homeowners contact us. Heat pumps are kind of a big one, but sometimes they just want to reduce their carbon emissions. They've got high energy bills. Their house isn't comfortable. There's a lot of other technologies, the heat pump water heaters, etc. Sometimes they'll get contractor bids or contractor recommendations, and they want some advice about that. So we look at a lot of things, our coaches, to base our recommendations on, and we talk about a lot of things. Now, let me tell you, a lot of people think, well, are you doing an energy audit? We do not do energy audits. We recommend energy audits, and we look at them if they have them. But we are something a little bit different. First of all, we're almost more comprehensive than an energy audit. So we talk about everything that people are interested in, including EVs, EV charging, what kind of plants to plant in your garden. I mean, whatever, so we really look at things comprehensively, especially if we go to someone's home. It's like, every little bit is looked at. And then we also are more of a guide. That's kind of how we see it. So I think it's, well, okay, I'll say it now, maybe it's in here later. But here's the use case we're trying to solve. So, so homeowners, it's new technology, it's complicated, it's more complicated than, say, a furnace or a regular water heater or whatever. So people are reluctant to take the plunge. Sometimes things aren't done correctly by the contractors. And so we want to encourage people by guiding them along. Sometimes they don't know about, they don't know what a heat pump water heater is. Only 5% of Americans know. So we are really kind of more comprehensive than an energy audit, although in some sense, I mean, we don't do a blower door or anything. So energy audits are great. Okay, so a few other things we do. We have a monthly green home tour. So if you're interested, you could go to Eventbrite and do that. But that's another way of getting people to feel more comfortable with the process of electrification. We also do a lot of workforce development. So we've kind of identified a whole bunch of sort of roadblocks to building electrification, unfortunately. A lot of different things, but we can't work on all of them, but one of the things we want to work on is we're getting more people into these fields. Because if you look at heat pump, if you look at basically any new technology, it will increase, the adoption increases exponentially. And already there aren't enough people who know how to put in a heat pump. And when we reach that place where the curve's going up, then there really won't be enough people. So we go to schools and we talk about building electrification or EVs, getting people to become EV mechanics, etc. So we've done a lot of that, and then also, unfortunately, as we've been doing these coaching sessions, what we've found, which is really sad, is that most of the time this equipment is not installed correctly. And that's demoralizing because, of course, if a heat pump is, say, oversized, then it's going to cost the person more money, it's not going to last as long, it may not be as comfortable, etc. So then that person's going to tell their friends, oh, these things don't work. So we really want to try to cut it off early. So we talk to contractors politely, and we've also we've worked with the Marshall Fire Rebuild, and that's where we really started spotting all these errors. So we work with the communities there. We kind of wrote up our findings on all the common problems. And so they've kind of tried to educate homeowners and contractors about it. So that's another kind of big area. So we do a lot of public outreach. So these are technologies that a lot of people don't know about, or they vaguely know about. A heat pump, well, I don't know, it heats your house somehow, right? So we do tabling, we do presentations, speaking engagement, we do EV shows and ride and drives. Okay, so who are we? There's about 30 people who are really core members, and then there's sort of 80 people who are kind of on the outskirts here. A lot of them, as I said, are absolute home electrification geeks, so they'll spend time, there'll be these long email chains where they talk about some little minutia. But a lot of people don't know about home electrification, but they still want to help. So these are other areas here that they can be involved with. So how did this get started? Okay, so I'm one of the co-founders, and Stuart, who's in this picture, is also one of the co-founders. So we, for years, did a lot of EV shows, usually with Drive Electric Colorado, you know them. And EV shows are great, right? Because cars are portable. So you bring your car, you line them up, people come by, they ask you questions, you talk about the benefits of EV, bring them in your car, And, you know, there are a lot of misconceptions and there's a lot of things people don't know about EVs. Like, for example, safety. A lot of people don't know that they're safer than ICE cars. So anyway, and people like cars. People think cars are cool. People do not think that what heats and cools your home is cool. That is absolutely not cool. It's not interesting. You can't bring it somewhere, so people don't know, you know, how a house is being heated and cooled. So they don't know, you know, if they saw that, you know, several of their neighbors had a heat pump, maybe they'd go, oh, wow, I should get one too because my friends are. But they don't know. They don't know. So we sort of talked about, well, how do we kind of do the same thing with building electrification, which is this one-on-one conversation, which persuades people. So we came up with this coaching idea. We got together with somebody else who had a nascent website and called Go Electric Colorado. And that's kind of how we got started. And we feel like we fulfill a niche because if somebody wants to electrify their home, right now what most people who want to help do is they have a website with information. Now, if you want to get a furnace, you don't have to go to a website and look things up and try to educate yourself on what a furnace is. You just call someone up and say, give me a furnace. So a lot of people just simply aren't going to do that. So we are trying to reach that large quantity of people who you know, aren't willing to become educated in it, but they want to get this latest technology for whatever reason. There's various motivations. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to scale. So right now we have three areas that we serve. So, well, three chapters basically. So Boulder is where we started. So that's our huge one. We've got one in Denver and we've got one in Fort Collins. But there are 2,500,000 homes in Colorado. So ideally we want to grow like crazy so that you know, we can really light a fire here. Okay, so how can you help? So first of all, spread the word about coaching, and that it's free. You know, we've got no conflicts of interest. It's all volunteers. You know, we don't even have any paid staff. It's just a bunch of people who are concerned about climate change and want to help. So if you guys want to put it in your website, newsletter, social media, we would very much appreciate that. Boulder, since that's where we were, I mean, they send us people all the time if people like call them and ask questions and they don't know the answer. They say, oh, we'll just go to these people. So, you know, if you want to do that. And then also we want to talk to as many people as possible for, so if you guys have any ideas for presentations, EV shows, tabling, school outreach, contractor education, policy, we've done some policy stuff, reach out to us, because the hardest thing really is, the most time-consuming thing is to find a venue and organize it and stuff. But we are very willing to like be your foot soldiers in whatever you want to do. And also, I know that every city has climate goals. So if you want to enlist our support in that as well. If you want to sponsor us, so we've kind of reached the point where the organization's kind of getting too big for any one person to really be able to see the whole thing and organize it. So we're hoping that we could get together enough funds to hire somebody as a paid staff. So Yeah, and also if you want to, so everything we do for you is free, but if you wanted to, for example, Denver is hiring us to do some stuff. So if you want to do something like that, that would be another option. Okay, so that's it. Questions?
I'm curious if you've reached out to or partnered with any county workforce centers as far as the workplace training, or if you're familiar with the kind of workforce development side of things, or if it's mostly just on the outreach side as far as like at schools.
I mean, right now we've really done it independently.
Okay.
So, so we have like, we have contacts in the school area, so we're kind of doing it independently. And I know there's other organizations that are also doing things like this, and the county workforce is interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think we could go a lot further.
Yeah, if there's anyone at the organization that I could reach out to kind of.
Well, I'm kind of the workforce development person, so you can reach out to me.
I'll send you an email later.
Okay.
Some details. I don't want to take up too much time with that.
No, that's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. We'll do that.
Uh-huh.
Do you involve yourself, like for individual homeowners, in the choosing equipment, finding a contractor, that kind of stuff, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do. We certainly do the choosing the equipment if they're interested in us doing that. Recommending contractors, we also do. So Boulder County is giving us some money, and they kind of said, don't overtly recommend somebody. So we have to do it sort of, okay, well, here's a few people who we found are good. But yeah, we do that.
Just happen to be ranked from first to last. Yeah.
Well, there are good people. I mean, there's a small handful of good people, and there's a bunch of people who are trying, and they are well-meaning, and they don't always do things right. And then there's a bunch of people who have seemingly no intention or no desire to learn. It is more complicated than installing a furnace, so.
Speaking of which, how do you qualify those people that you have on a list? Are they come recommended to you from people who's done or had work done, or do they have some other rating system? I mean, that would be a concern for me.
Yeah, we don't do it. We mostly just do it because people we've found often through coaching that have been good. So, we get to know somebody because they've worked with one of our clients. But we'll also guide people to like the Excel list. And so there's various sort of lists around. Yeah.
The other thing out there is some of the manufacturers of the heat pumps are certifying the installers for their equipment. And so if they're selling you a certain brand, you can find out if they are certified by that company. In other words, they really know how to adjust it, how many pounds of coolant to put in, all that kind of stuff, because they are a finer tuned piece of equipment than old-fashioned air conditioners.
I mean, that's kind of a double-edged sword in that they know the equipment very well, which is nice. But we have had situations where representatives of companies that don't really make the cold climate heat pumps. So they say, oh, well, we'll just give you this heat pump and then you'll have this backup, which is not, I mean, sometimes that's necessary, but usually it's not.
Julie, can you say a little bit more about cold climate heat pumps versus non-cold climate?
Yeah. So heat pumps kind of were, there's actually a huge adoption of heat pumps in the South and in warmer climates, because basically what they do is they want air conditioning, but then there's a few days out of the year in which they also want heat. So they have these non-cold climate heat pumps, and they go down to like 45 degrees or something like that. And that was heat pumps for a long time. So cold climate heat pumps have been around 10, 15 years. Oh, some contractors will not know they exist, so they'll just say you can't do them in this weather. But, and they've been getting better and better as time goes on, especially with the temperatures that they go down to. So, you know, you can find, you know, ones that go down in the -20s and some of them actually go down further, although they aren't always rated for that, but we found that they do. So yeah, that's a cold climate heat pump, is basically one that works in temperatures below, you know, 40, well, way below 45. You know, around here you want something that's, you know, down to 0 or something like that at least. And then on those freezing days, you know, you can put in some space heaters or whatever you want to do. Maybe have some kind of a backup.
And some of them have heat elements in them for those ultra cold days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which of course is expensive.
Yeah.
But they can do that too.
Yeah.
There actually is a center up in Alaska that is really researching cold weather heat pumps that go down to, I mean, like 30 below 0 and handle it just fine.
Mm-hmm.
They're not down here yet, but.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting better and better. And I mean, some people will do ground source heat pumps, so we do get a lot of requests to talk about that. They're expensive, and you know, you have to have a pretty big house, a very big house, to make them really cost effective. But some people just want them, you know.
Can you mention the difference between ground source and air
Sure,
source heat
yeah,
pump?
sorry, I'm using jargon here. Okay, so a heat pump will pump heat from outside to inside. The normal ones are air source. So basically, they are just using the air to scavenge the heat. A ground source heat pump, you basically, someone comes in and drills all these pipes, you know, a whole system underground. Now, the advantage of underground, of course, is that it's, you know, whatever, 50, 55 degrees. So you don't have to bring the temperature from -10 to 70 or, you know, 95 to 70. You can just use the 50, 55, which is great for air conditioning, because, you know, and heat as well. So they're more efficient. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
If people are talking to contractors and they're not contractors that specialize in heat pumps, what do you think are some of the red flags where someone should say, I probably shouldn't go with that contractor?
Well, if they immediately say dual fuel, so we're anti-dual fuel. Dual fuel basically is you get a heat pump that doesn't go down very much, and then you have a gas system that's a backup, or an electric system, but usually a gas system that's a backup. Yeah, so that's one thing. One of the things we like to keep our eye on is the sizing of the equipment. So when contractors come back, the big problem contractors do is they oversize. So a heat pump, a furnace, it doesn't matter whether it's oversized. You know, you just put in this big thing and it just goes on and off. And if it's big, who cares? You know, it's just going on and off. But a heat pump that is basically made for a square footage or cubic footage, and, you know, the kind of house that is like way bigger than yours is bad, because it's going to be more expensive. It does, I don't want to get too technical here, but there's sort of a cycle of a heat pump, and if it's too big, it short cycles, so it starts to do a cycle and it kind of breaks off. And that makes it more expensive, and it makes it not good for the equipment as well. So we've had we've had houses that were 2 times too big. You know, like we kind of joke that, you know, we just run a line to the neighbors and then we could just heat 2 houses. Now, why do people do this? Why do contractors do this? Well, first of all, sizing takes a certain amount of effort and skill, and sometimes they just don't want to do it. Sometimes they just look at the furnace and say, okay, well, that's the size. We'll just put in a heat pump that's the same size. But they also, contractors do not want callbacks. Callbacks are basically, you know, you come and you install something and then someone says, hey, it's not working right, you know, because then you've just lost all your profit. So they don't want someone saying it's too cold in here. I mean, that would be really bad, right? So they kind of err too much on oversizing. So that's another reason. But that's kind of a big issue that we have found. Yeah.
Can a heat pump system work in tandem with an existing furnace so the furnace becomes a backup?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, we recommend that often for people, you know, who have an existing furnace and they are, you know, they're kind of, well, will this work? You know, you say, well, just keep your furnace. You know, if it gives you peace of mind, keep your furnace. You know, yeah, no, that's a perfectly fine thing to do. If you're, you know, if you don't need to use, I mean, if you have a ducted, there's 2 kinds of air source heat pumps. There's ones that use your existing ducts, and then there's ones that mini splits that go on the wall or the ceiling or the floor or whatever. So, you know, it would have to be compatible, but yeah, people do that. You can do that, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then another, just been working with this for a couple of years. And one of the things when you have older homes, like many of the small ranches that are in Inglewood, that becomes another whole issue because they were not ducted for anything but a furnace. Because
Yes.
back when they were built, they never imagined even air conditioning.
Yeah.
And so that takes some creative, possibly additional ducting, stuff like that. Otherwise, the house can't handle it.
Yeah, so a heat pump kind of blows continuously. So it's sort of, a little bit of hot air comes out continuously, which actually adds to comfort, because even though you might not consciously realize it, if you have a furnace, it's, you know, it's going on and off and on and off, and it's sort of like, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, I'm too hot, I'm too cold. You may not notice it, but when you get a heat pump, you say, oh, well, it's more comfortable. But yes, unfortunately, heat pumps will require bigger ducting than some of the old houses have. The newer houses are fine usually. I mean, they have big.
Because they're built for air conditioning.
Yeah, yeah. So that could be a problem. I don't know what our coaches do in that case. I don't know whether they recommend a whole bunch of mini splits or they say just go with a slightly smaller system and then put in like 1 mini split in like the big room. I don't know exactly what they do, to be honest, in that situation, but I know it does come up a lot.
You know how most people's furnace seems to go out at the most inconvenient time, like Christmas Eve at midnight. And then you call up, you know, one contractor that you know or that your neighbor knows, and you basically just get what they have on their truck. So what would you advise everyone who currently has a working furnace for maybe thinking ahead or making a plan or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big issue because if let's say it's Christmas Eve and your furnace goes out, you can get another furnace really quickly. You probably can't get a heat pump really quickly. So that is an issue. We always ask people how old their furnace is and their hot water heater. So if it's over a certain age, we just say, hey, you know, just switch it out. Well, or we recommend they switch it out. We don't tell them what to do. So that's kind of what we do. But it is a problem. even if someone wanted a heat pump, you know, what would they do? We were talking at one point, I mean, we have all these ideas that we don't do because we have too many ideas. But we were talking at one point of having like a space heater library that we would like loan people if it was in the middle of winter and they needed to get by until they got their heat pump, so.
How old is like your furnace is getting pretty old?
15 years or
I thought
so.
it was 26.
So anyone who has a furnace that's 15 years or older should maybe just have on their radar that they want to start making a plan.
I mean, that's what if someone sort of wants it or is interested, we kind of say, well, this, you know, that would be a good thing to do so that you don't get into that situation which you mentioned.
Can you send someone to our Earth Day event? When is
Yes, I signed up for it.
Oh, okay.
I just signed up when I was in this building.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, what about the block party in like August?
Yeah.
We have a lot of events in Englewood.
Yeah, I mean, just tell us and we'll be there. Yeah.
Obviously, you're looking for us to spread the good word, but it sounds like you guys are a jack of all trades. What is your go-to tagline? Are you tech specialists? Are you just helping with home electrification? I don't know.
I mean,
If you had just a portion of a piece of paper, what would be?
yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, we started out just doing coaching, but then we kind of said, well, yeah, but there are all these other things that need to be done if home electrification is going to happen. So we kind of branched out in these weird areas. So we sort of, you know, if you look at what we do, it's sort of like, you know, whatever a volunteer has thought was really important. So, but you know, residential home electrification, helping homeowners is kind of our big thing.
Got it.
We do. But I know it does get a little bit confusing as to like what exactly does your organization do, because you seem to be doing all these disparate things.
That sounds like that's electrification in a nutshell. It's like once you start thinking like, okay, maybe heat pumps, then it devolves into maybe I should get solar and batteries. You know, I think that's just electrification itself. So it totally makes sense.
Yeah. I've seen a couple organizations that have like a roadmap for maybe you could plan out some stages for what to do. What's first, what's second.
Yeah. Are there any other questions, comments? If not, thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
Thank you so much. All right, for the sake of time, I'll just tee us up. Are you good with the meeting time? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So, I wanted to bring to the commission to see if you all were good with or wanted to change the commission meeting time. This is something that other commissions have changed, a few have changed in the last year. So I just wanted to check, like, does Tuesdays at 6:30, is that good for everyone? Do you all want to pitch a different date or time, or are we good and then we move past and are good for the year?
I'm good.
Good?
I'm good. Done my calendar already.
Yeah, once it's on
Already
the
a standing
calendar,
hold.
we're sold. Okay, so general consensus, yes.
Good.
Okay, perfect, that's so fast.
Yeah, I'm good with it too.
You do not need to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
please be free.
Good luck in
Yes,
the
Well, Fridays are fun.
Use the elevator.
Okay, thank you all, nice meeting you all.
Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Julia.
The next thing,
Dude, 100%.
the next thing is the resiliency workshop debrief. I hate putting a lot of text on slides. There was just like really no way around it, so I apologize for that. Hopefully everyone picked up the pamphlet, but I will have it up here as well. So we had these workshops in January. We had such a packed February that I just bumped it to this meeting to give a debrief on it and give next steps. So the city is going after to try and we are doing a high level climate resiliency framework. The Colorado Resiliency Office has helped, I believe it's Adams County and Arvada go through this process. So we kicked it off with them last year with the Englewood staff, and then we continued it this year, but a more in-depth version than what the state did with residents. And we actually have a few folks in here that were there, which I'll, if y'all are comfortable, in a little bit tee it over to you guys to get your personal opinions on how you think it went. But essentially, we had 2 workshops with all Englewood residents, and the first one was about vulnerabilities for climate change, with 3 main topics to kind of keep us focused, right? Climate change impacts so many things. So we looked at the data of what the state said is kind of our area's top ones, which is bad air quality, wildfire smoke, ozone kind of really hits our area really hard, extreme heat and drought, and then also extreme weather events. So those 3 buckets are what we looked at. So then for workshop 1, we asked folks within those 3 buckets, what are the like acute local city of Englewood vulnerabilities that you and your neighbors feel like are happening here? So this is the result of workshop 1. And then everyone did a poll dot at the end to rank their highest. We did have some Englewood staff, not many there, to help with facilitation, but the only people that were allowed to vote were residents. And I think there were 2 staff that voted only because they were also residents. So no one not resident was able to vote. And the top one, which I personally love to see that everyone put dots by, was that the most vulnerable communities in Englewood feel the impacts of climate change the hardest. I think as a group, everyone, that was their top concern, which as someone who environmental justice is my passion, I love seeing that everyone put that. But because it's kind of a broad theme, we kind of put that as like, this is clearly very important. This is the lens we're gonna look at all the other vulnerabilities through, because that's not really like something you can check off. So with that, here were our top buckets of vulnerabilities. They're not placed in any level of importance. One bucket was excessive automobile dependence. Another one was around water quality and quantity. Other ones, so the ones with bullets underneath it, there were a lot of ones that people brought up. So we just kind of put them into their natural categories to help organize. So another one was the mental and physical health impacts because of climate change. Another vulnerability was the impacts on our native plants and animals. Another top vulnerability was evacuation plans, or specifically the lack thereof. And then that final big bucket is the costs, the financial costs of climate change. So then I'm not going to go through each one of these. I hope everyone looked through these, but I also am fine going slower and going through whichever ones people want to go into more in depth. But just very briefly, so workshop 2, we put all the vulnerabilities out, and then we gave people the opportunity to work with their neighbors, work with other fellow residents of what solutions do you want to see. People had the ability for 2 rotations to pick the solutions that they felt most passionate about. And then they had to pick top solutions from their group that got voted on as well. So here are the top solutions around excessive car use. So something you'll see if you read through each one is that multimodal transportation is very much something that is of interest to at least the group of I believe 28 to 30 residents that were part of this group. So really wanted like expanded public transportation, having more alternatives than what we currently have. For water quality and quantity, it was nice seeing that the park bond, sorry, it says board, the park bond funding was brought up there, like how to make sure that we're using it wisely in terms of resiliency and climate change. Having rebates, incentives, which we do have, but maybe expanding those, and education around there. For mental and physical health, I love the one of community skill sharing. I think that's so great. Again, elevating multimodal transit. I think multimodal transit hits on so many things of cost, mental and physical health, emissions. I thought that was great to see there. And then increasing options and programs for adults for recreation throughout Englewood. This one very wordy, I'll only highlight a few. So impacts on native plants and animals. having code enforcement, which actually we're going to touch on in a little bit later, code enforcement education on native plants, maximizing permeable surfaces in the city, and also kind of providing practical like workshops for youth and really highlighting that education piece again.
Mel, can you go back for a second?
Yeah.
I am kind of curious about that, with that last line about code enforcement education needing compost services through the city, ability for compost.
Yeah, so this.
How did that combine?
Yeah, this group cheated a little, which we allowed, and they had pieces of paper that they had to write individual solutions on. And they wanted a lot in there, which we didn't catch until later, but they put all of it in there. But we didn't want to edit what residents said, so they did get more in there. Great catch. And then for evacuation plans, I was actually part of this group, and let me tell you, there was nothing that stressed me out more than talking about a lack of evacuation plans. But some things that they discuss of things like, where do you take your pets in evacuations? I don't know if anyone saw for like hurricane stuff. I know that's a big one, but if there's wildfire smoke that for some reason pummels through Englewood, where do people go? What's a good alert system, especially we were talking about for our mobile home park areas, maybe they aren't signed up for the Arapahoe alert systems. And then also just where do people go for temporary shelters, and do we have any? And then I think this is the final one, cost, just uplifting the idea of a circular economy, community gardens, co-ops, more outreach and education, and comprehensive financial assistance to kind of find out where people have a gap in funding and how we can fill it. Okay, so I know that was a lot, but I also didn't want to go through line by line if everyone read it, and it was like, please don't do that. So for the next steps, actually, let me bring up the next steps. This is like a whole 2025 process. So we're going to be presenting the results from this, as well as the results from our employee resiliency internal, kind of put them together, have them overlap with our internal directors team to get their kind of gut reaction to it, also to build kind of buy-in for what it could look like next. We also, we tried really hard to make sure that these events were accessible to every socioeconomic background and transportation needs, but we can't be guaranteed that we hit everyone from an underserved background. So we do want to take these findings once more out to our mobile home communities. We're planning an event with the county to try and do a weatherization event to get people signed up. So we're hoping to plan that sometime in the next coming months to not only sign people up, but also be like, hey, we have this high level resiliency framework. Are these kind of what you feel like are the vulnerabilities and challenges that you're facing? Just to get an extra layer on top of it. And then we are going to bring it to City Council to do a debrief on everything that we learned, the recommendations from residents on what to do next. And then the last piece I'll add is that through a nonprofit that we're a member of, they have applications for a free intern for April to November. So we just submitted our application today to have someone come and help us with the resiliency piece of this to make sure it's really well rounded out and that it's thoughtful. And then hopefully, because our 2025 strategic plan ends this year, because it's 2025, talks for 2026 to 2030 plan will happen, I believe, in fall of this year. So we're hoping that this is like a perfect time to kind of influence that upcoming strategic plan, hopefully. Rick, why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing when you use the word influence. I just love it. Got the mayor sitting here.
It's a wink.
I'm like, but those are the next steps, and I would love to answer any questions, comments, concerns that folks have about the process, and also say that Killian was there, Lana was there, and Hillary was there, if they want to add anything that I missed.
No, that kind of sums it up pretty well. The thing that, I mean, as you can see, that people got a lot of ideas was my kind of big takeaway. Everybody's got lots of great ideas, and bringing it all together was fun. Right now, it's it looks like a very cool wish list for an infinite budget. I think that would probably be, I'm assuming that's the next step is you know, if we want to influence the way that these solutions are implemented in the city, then it's got to be the sales pitch.
And that, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's also where the presentation with the directors comes in, of the gut check of the feasibility, and also seeing like, where are we already doing some of these? Like I can tell you with the water rebates, or I think it was like native plant rebates, we're already doing that. So maybe that's just better education on what we're already doing.
Yeah, whether it is ours, and kind of identifying, you know, the climate justice impact of all of these potential solutions too, as stuff where it's not just a sustainability solution, it's a harm reduction solution, or something where it's in the middle of that Venn diagram of like preventative and harm reduction and cost effectiveness of those terms. I'd be really excited to explore more of that. But it was a great way to get just people, so many ideas. Yeah.
What's the timeline to present to council?
Well, I say I'm hoping to do it in like June or July. It might be faster if we actually get that intern, but so far this whole thing is just me and our city management fellow, so it takes a little longer when you're a team of 1.5.
I missed out on where was the intern hoping to come from, or what was the?
ICLEI, the nonprofit. So because we're members, you have to apply, so it's not guaranteed, but
Maybe strong.
yeah, please.
Do you know if that'll be at a study session or a standard?
Presenting to council, it would just be a study session, I believe, of like, here's the results.
Okay.
And then Lana, I think I saw your hand up. I want to make sure if you have something to say, you can.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say it was a really positive experience. It was just really wonderful to connect with so many community members, and I know it's kind of a self-selected group working on sustainability. But there was a lot of, I guess, positive momentum. People were kind of thinking along the same lines and really enthusiastic about each other's idea. And in terms of, you know, the cost of actual implementation, there was quite a bit of talk about kind of just working together as residents of Inglewood, like in little groups. So I think that like community organization could go really far in people coming together, and like you were saying, like with the skills sharing, things like that wouldn't necessarily cost a lot of money. Like I think that there are opportunities that could come out of this that aren't very expensive or don't cost really at all.
Lana, thank you so much for bringing that up, because I forgot that too. At the end of workshop 2, that was one of the pitches I made to the group was, you don't have to wait for your local government to do really great stuff. We have CASE that I think they might be on a little bit of a hiatus, but as residents, you have so much power and action to do things as well. Like, we are working on this, we're chugging along, but like it's so true that government works really slowly. So don't let us hold you back.
Agreed. I wanted to echo Lana's comments about momentum. I think that's powerful in the public sphere, and I don't want it to just stop with the presentation to City Council. If we can be an extension of any of these great ideas, let us know, Mel. I'd love to schedule another debrief, maybe before or right after you present to City Council, so that we can maintain the momentum that you've created with these workshops.
Yeah, and that actually was a comment. We had an anonymous survey after each workshop to get feedback on what people wanted to see. And that was one comment, was someone put, I really hope there's a commission that can take on the work that is happening. So, you know, not to put it on you guys too, but.
Put it on us. It's also a sense of accountability. Like, if this is truly from, you know, our community, then we need to be championing these ideas in front of
That's a really, yeah, I agree, 1000%. I think that's a great statement.
Well, we're gonna put it in like a beautiful document and something that's way more like in-depth, but I just wanted you all to see like the beginning bubblings of what came out of that workshop, especially because it happened in January.
When you sort out the things that came through that maybe it's like, hey, we maybe need more education, we may want to pivot to the communication with it too.
I like that we have we also had Go Electric Colorado on the same meeting as kind of a good example of a very grassroots organization that's getting some real stuff done.
Encouraged. Thanks for your efforts, Mel. This is really
Thanks,
cool.
everyone. Bruce was there too. I was like, this is so perfect. Everyone was there. But if anyone has like questions or comments or anything that bubbles up after, just email, call me. I'm here. And then the next thing is the quarterly newsletter. Hopefully you all saw it. If not, I can pull it up, but just any edits or anything before it's sent off. Does anyone want me to pull it up? Yes, okay, perfect. Let me do that.
Actually, no, if it's too much, I can just tell you what I came
I'm-
across. and I can-
Yeah, I
there.
just have one little tiny
I,
thing
yeah,
that feels
mine's
nitpicky.
nothing
Yeah, mine-
shattering, it's just a couple corrections.
Okay, let's do it this way. Perfect. All right, let me hear it.
A lot of your images that you have in there are links, which is terrific. A couple that weren't, that I would suggest that you turn into a link if you scroll down a little bit. That sustainability one right there,
This
I
one?
would make that a link, and it's not.
Got it.
It just, it can go to the grants, or it can just go to the sustainability landing page or something like that. The other one that could be linked is the one for the boards and commissions, because I know there's a landing page for people to start that process. And you've got the apply now button, but I would suggest making the boards and commissions
Yeah.
link too. It's just, people just see pictures and they click. The E3 link down at the bottom is not working.
Oh.
So I would, it just goes to something that says, it looks like probably the page got moved or something. And then, yeah, so
Oh,
that
we
needs to be
did
fixed.
move some pages there. Okay, that's good to
That was the
know.
only one of those that I found. But the unsubscribe link all the way down at the bottom, which is probably part of the big picture, for some reason, when I got it, it didn't have a link to it. It's showing a link there, but
Oh, that is, so this is a this is the template that the city uses, so that's good to know, because that might be on
it's a
all of
template
them.
issue.
What link are you referencing?
The unsubscribe all
unsubscribe.
link down at the bottom, when I tried to click on it, there was no, it wasn't blue, it was black.
What
Yeah, it doesn't work.
you got from, yeah, that doesn't work. The one
Rick,
from
are you
now.
trying to unsubscribe from my newsletter?
I think the message is obvious. You go there.
Whoa.
It's like Hotel California, baby. That's
Yeah,
it.
that managed subscriptions work. That's a good catch.
That's it.
You really hit every link.
Yeah.
What do you multitask when you do that?
Yeah, I was actually working with the mayor.
Clicking on the links.
Asking how this-
No,
I just-
the only one I have, it feels like nitpicky, but underneath like that Earth Day celebration. The picture. Yeah, right there, that paragraph. It reads a little awkwardly. I was thinking, like that sentence says, this event takes place after the annual Scott class cleanup that takes place from 9. Just like a switch on the words.
Yeah, I can totally
This
do that.
this follows this event
Yeah.
from 9 to 12 at this place. That's all. I was
Got
like,
it.
it was just a little weird, like awkward. I feel like bad telling you because you do such a good job.
I love it. Anything else? Any comments? Broken links? People trying to flee the newsletter?
Did you send Julia the link to Julie? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, I will get those fixed before I send it off tomorrow. And then I think the next thing is city updates. So this is on me. I should have given this update in February because this happened in the January city council retreat. But there are some updates and changes to the sustainability plan in general. For those who don't remember, the sustainability plan is housed within the strategic plan. And so sustainability priority area used to be 7 of 8. It got moved down in priority to 8 of 8. Within the sustainability plan, council is able to rank kind of like their top of the different areas within sustainability. And the ones that rose to the top are built environment and infrastructure, natural environment, waste and recycling. Air quality education as a whole was removed, so now that is gone. And then climate action goal was tweaked to just add that it has to be economically viable. So those were the main changes there. Any comments on that before I move to a different city update?
Who claimed spot number 7?
Ooh, I don't know. I just am tunnel vision with the sustainability stuff. Everything else I'm like, But 8 is for great, so, you know, that's where they were moving it
You're
to.
doing such a great job.
Yeah, they're like, oh.
Add it to a high.
We gotta cover it.
That makes me think really quick, that makes me think of a anonymous comment we got for our survey where it was like, sustainability program is doing great, you can slash the budget. I was like, I don't know how to take that. Okay, the last updates is kind of what I said before. City will begin the visioning for 2026, 2030 in the fall. So I would say like noodle as individuals the things that you would like to see sustainability wise, because we really want to make sure that those are given to council as something that is a priority for you all. Also something really exciting, our Blink charging contract for our electric vehicle charging stations is signed and approved as of March 3rd. We're chugging along, it just takes a while. And then our energy performance contract, which is our building energy efficiency and electrification and our solar projects are going to be going to council in, I believe, April. We're chugging along for that as well. When the ink is dry and everything is said and done, I would love to have our energy contractor here to run through all the updates with you all. It's just a little premature right now, but hopefully sometime later in the year for that one. Any questions or comments before we move to the last thing?
No, I mean, the thought I have saying priority 8 is just the doubling down on the need to kind of emphasize, you know, stuff brought to us by the community, because then it's a resident concern, or stuff that can impact, that directly relates to or impacts other council priorities, where it might, they're like, yeah, we're framing this as a climate issue, but it also touches all of these other city departments.
And something I'll say too, not just with Englewood City Council, with any city council, your council members are hearing more of what people don't like than what they do like. So that's just my tidbit. If there's ever anything that like you're passionate about or you want your certain representative to know, like I always recommend letting them know, because like my position as a sustainability person, I'm not ranking the importance of it. It's your representatives that are doing that. Okay, and then the last thing for me is just what topics you all want to chat and talk about for April.
Will there have been a decision made on the sale of or the breaking of the lease of?
No, city center redevelopment?
Yeah.
No, we actually had an executive session last night, so that will be ongoing.
Okay.
There's not much I can add to that conversation, but there are conversations occurring.
Well, if you all think of anything, oh, sorry.
Well, it was something I was going to mention later, but I think I'd like to mention it
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Can I pass these out? This is what I was doing while I was editing. You wanted to know what my multitask was.
I was just checking. I'd probably watch it like
Take one and
movie or
pass
something.
them down.
And then Rick, I added in everyone's printout, the updated code for the Xeric stuff too, if that's helpful.
Two things. One had to do with what kind of was going on in terms of the status of the changes that, if you remember, Cara, almost a year ago, came with changes that we recommended be taken to council regarding the definition of weeds, the definition of native grasses versus non-native grasses, et cetera. And I was trying to track through it because I had a discussion with Dana a couple days ago, and Dana was like, whatever happened to that? And I didn't know, and I missed a couple meetings, so I wasn't really part of it. And so I reached out to the mayor to ask if he kind of remembered what happened to it. I asked you the same question. So I'd like to see if you can address that and kind of let us know what the status is on that. Did you ever hear back from Dave?
We didn't hear back from Dave, but I can say what I know before it gets handed over to the mayor. So we went to council in June of 2024. And then after we presented, we actually heard from our attorney that the suggested edits for Title 16 around like native and low water plants, it had actually already been updated to the sustainable landscape, which should be the code stuff that you all have. I briefly read through it today, and it looks like it addresses a lot of what the commission wanted. There is the lack of the word native in there, but it emphasizes using low water plants and xeric planting in there. If the commission really wants to pitch like having the word native in there, it is a whole process of working with planning and zoning and community development to make those further tweaks. But the initial ask for that landscape wording is a little bit out of date because there was this newer one, which just when the commission was looking at the codes, that just wasn't online yet, which is why that got missed. And that's on me as well for not passing it through community development. And then with the changing of the definition of weed in one of the ordinances, that one had got pitched to code enforcement, got pitched to Dave, and then I think it just got lost in translation and then like almost indefinitely tabled because it didn't get picked up. So there's the two avenues there.
Is there something you want me to add to that? So.
I don't think so. I don't.
Yeah, because I guess so yeah, if it doesn't make it back to council, so what I heard then, it just didn't make it all the way through to code enforcement advisory. Code enforcement advisory was supposed to look at the definition as well, right? Okay. So when Rick and I were talking about it last night, I do recall it coming in front of council of June of last year. And just as an FYI, just because you guys kind of saw the fact that sustainability fell to 8th of 8. So there's certain members of council that just don't feel like we're doing what we can as a city in terms of sustainability, in terms of our size, in terms of our budget. They're comfortable where it is, where it's at. And so the aspect that I wanted to bring up, or what I started thinking about when Rick brought this back to my attention last night, was one of the pushbacks that I get from, or what we hear from council about things of this nature is specifically around grasses. Whenever they feel that government is telling them what can or can't go into your yard, they'll push back on that. But in terms of, prioritizing native grasses or prioritizing certain landscaping, they're okay with that. But if you're asking them to outlaw or ban something that should go, that a homeowner can put in their yard, that's where they kind of draw a line. So I would steer away from stating, no, you can't put this in the yard, but just say we could de-emphasize these type of lawns or grasses or anything on those lines. That's where they kind of draw a line. So anything that comes around with that type of wording is going to get immediate pushback from council, at least for.
And I think the newer Title 16 that was already passed does a really great job of doing that.
Right.
And I think maybe that's, yeah, besides just like outwardly listing native, I think it did a great job of being like, this is what you should be. You don't have to, but this is what we recommend you do.
Yeah, Title 16, we basically stated we are looking to prioritize low flow or drought resisting plants in certain areas. We just said prioritize. We didn't say that we were going to outlaw it.
Mhm.
Although I think the state did that for us, right?
Yeah.
In commercial areas. So.
That helps, and I think the other issue I will take up and kind of pick up as we talked about with Dave regarding the restating of some of the code to be more specific about grasses, because right now it just says weeds. And so it's still set with the 6-inch, and the recommendation from this committee was to go to, I think, 12. And so we have some work to do there. So I will take that on personally because I'm on that committee. What I gave you was the reason I started talking about this. I have an idea. And this came a little bit out of the code committee, and it's also some discussions that I've had with some people in the field. And I'll summarize what I'm saying. You don't have to read through it. But basically what I'm saying is that Inglewood is trending toward a younger population. With the younger population comes a more heightened sense of attention to the environment. And I think people in this city would like to be able to be moving more in the direction of the things that we're doing, the turf replacements, the gardens in the box. Those types of things I think are high. I think as a committee, we should do everything we can to move and help them move forward with that. That being said, we hit a little bit of a wall sometimes when we're dealing with other parts of the city, specifically code enforcement, because code enforcement has to go out and they have to tell you when you have to, if you've not mowed your lawn. They don't really know the difference between native grasses and anything else. It looks like a weed to them. And honestly, I don't think that we should expect them to educate themselves to that degree. What I'm proposing is an idea that I would love to put on the agenda for next month, so we have some time to kind of process it, and I'd love your ideas to come back, would be to give people, homeowners in this area, a certification it's basically a green certification. And what it means is that if you have decided that you want to go native grass in your yard, if you're gonna go whole into pollinator gardens, if you're gonna transform some aspect of your land, particularly your front yard, a lot of people like to do that to save the water, then we come up with some system of certification that can end up being some sort of like a plaque on their yard or something like that, which does a lot of things. One, it says, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm trying. And neighbors see that, and it generates conversations about what you're doing. Basically, they're selling each other on it. But it's a plaque that shows in the neighborhood that they're doing that. The other good thing it does is it gets code enforcement off their back. So code enforcement no longer is responsible for supervising and making sure those weeds are at the invasive weeds. What it does put it, though, is it puts it back on someone else to basically certify that and continue to monitor for them, that kind of practice. I think it's a great marrying of a win-win between committees, between groups in the city, but it's a heavy lift in terms of what it would take to get something like this off the ground. And I put some bullet points down at the bottom that kind of show some of the reasons I think that this would work and some of the advantages of it. But I would love to have a larger conversation about it with this committee and put, tap your ideas. And is it possible? Would sustainability be a part of that? Could there be a subcommittee that could kind of develop that idea? Could we bring in experts from the outside so we're not responsible for doing it? And if so, if we bring in experts, how do you pay them? It's not like they can get their time free. But anyway, that's my idea. And I'm just going to kind of leave it there.
Yeah, I can definitely, I can talk a bit more on that next month as well. My idea was to look up resources that already exist. The first example that came to mind for me was my spouse is a Colorado certified gardener. That is a certification you obtain by CSU Extension. It's available via an online course. Mm-hmm. And you can, if you do enough volunteer work, you can extend that to certified Colorado master gardener. And I audited that course along with, we both did all the course material. We just didn't pay for it twice. I don't currently hold that certification.
But you might be able to go in conjunction with CSU and take, because their volunteer hours, I forget where we've got to do them. but you could do it into this. Is what you're
Possibly, yeah,
saying?
but,
If you worked with CSU Extension,
possibly,
would that
or,
be volunteer
or
hours?
as a different example, if you're doing community outreach within your neighborhood or, doing like the kind of thing that, Green Colorado does. That sort of thing, but like, from a sustainability perspective in Englewood. But I can anticipate the pushback you'd get from code enforcement on that, and I'm sure you
Actually,
have
no.
too.
It's reversed.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
completely reversed. I already pitched it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't pitch it like I pitched it here.
Okay, yeah.
I basically took AJ aside.
Oh,
I said,
okay, cool.
AJ, I got an idea. And I said, in
Yeah.
a nutshell, and he goes, that's fantastic.
Oh, cool.
If there's any
Right, no,
way
my
that
thought
we could
was-
reduce the load on
Yeah.
code enforcement, then I think they're all ears.
Yeah,
So-
I thought you were gonna hear, just because people know what they're doing doesn't mean that they're actually doing it.
I mean, there may be some skepticism and that kind of thing, but I think
So
that
you
if
saw that
it
grapevine.
reduces their workload,
Yeah,
they're all for it.
all right,
Rick, I love it.
yeah.
I do too.
I would love to see it happen, personally.
When we talk about it next month, if we do, could we consider maybe an addendum as well for little tags or things to stick in the dirt if it's not your entire property that is that way, but you just have some plants that might look like weeds but aren't?
Yeah.
Maybe as a before going full blown.
Sure. I mean, those are I hate to say it, but that's getting in the weeds. But it is the kind of thing that we have
Oh
to
my-
do. I know, I had to say.
No,
it.
I was just gonna say,
just had
I
to
love
say
that
it.
for the whole thing. Let's get into the
Just get into
weeds.
the weeds. But I think that there are lots of pieces to it, and there's lots of gray areas with it. So you're exactly right, Christine. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
That's a good idea.
I like this.
Lots of native plants underneath a 100-foot tall Siberian elm. Like, so that's obviously not a 100% native landscape, but,
Don't let perfect, I mean, yeah.
That's
don't let perfect be the
exactly,
enemy
yeah,
of
how
the
do you signify that to code enforcement? Hey, I'm doing my best over here.
Cool, if folks have any other ideas, you can email me.
I was like, cool.
No.
Starting to be like recognizable, got it. You know, like, I don't know, you see like, oh, that's.
Any other questions
Black-eyed
or
Susan,
comments or
or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see it, so
Go ahead.
like, it's like,
All the meeting
oh yeah,
adjourned?
that's the one that's on that, okay, that's on that.
Thanks, Hillary.
Just that habit.
Thanks, everyone.